5 years ago, I was probably at one of the lowest points in my life in terms of my self esteem and confidence. Essentially, we were going through something where, we didn't really have control fully in what was going on with life. Coupled with that, just what was going on, then, my academics weren't doing too good. This was like, I've said before, in year 12 when my predicted grades were essentially B, C, and D. But then, coupled with this, I wasn't proud of the person that I looked at in the mirror. Like, I felt like my appearance wasn't good enough, and that, I felt I was very inferior to everyone essentially around me. I felt like a lot of people were more important than I was, essentially. And yeah, so during these last 5 years, I've learned that confidence is something that you've got to build on year, essentially. It's not something that's as easily attainable as just going, go put yourself out there, go talk to everyone, because it's really not. Because in order to be able to put yourself out there, you've got to be, at peace with who you are, essentially. You've got to be happy with who you are also. So, starting in year 12 then, this was a time where I felt like my appearance was not very good. Like, I didn't know what I was doing with my hair, and I just felt like acne, which I've had all my life, probably very genetically prone to. My acne was not very good as well. I had pimples all over my face. Like, my face was red, like quite a lot, to be fair. So this was one of the first things that I started to fix, probably in the summer of year 12. I got accustomed to a skincare routine. So with that, I'd be washing my face now twice a day. I'd also be, applying basically all these serums and moisturizers, and the acne situation eventually calmed down. So yeah, alongside that, the hair, my hair is something that for a long time I struggled to essentially style and come up with a style which would suit me. I would always go for these weird skin fade haircuts, like, and my mum would always say, like, why have you come home with this? Because it would be essentially a skin fade, but then the hair on the top would be really short as well. And when I do that, this part of my face looks so chubby, it's absolutely insane. So yeah, I had to essentially improve my appearance. And again, this wasn't an easy process because I was not someone who was too into his skincare or, had any idea about how to style their hair also. So this is something I've had to build year on year. So starting early, I think year 12 to year 13 was one of the first times where I started like growing my hair out, essentially. So yeah, and I just really liked how it was making the rest of my face look. But then we started university, and in first year again the hair was long. I did not have a beard back then either. So again, I just felt like, I wasn't really happy on who I was looking at when I was looking into the mirror. So we got into second year, and this is where I started growing the beard essentially, and having hairstyles. I went from really short to having a mullet as well, and then just keeping the hair really long up top. And it is something that has genuinely worked wonders, And that's the thing, when you know that you're actively looking after yourself, you're proving to yourself that you are worth something, because you're putting all this time and effort essentially to look good, and that's not a bad thing either. Some people might call it superficial, but if at the end of the day it makes you happy, then it's 100% worth it. And then, in third year, I just ran with the look, and I've kept it ever since, and I'm quite happy with it. Another thing was academics. So about, again, 5-6 years ago, academics was the one thing where I thought I genuinely wasn't good enough to be achieving these top grades. Like, I'd be looking at other students and pupils who were capable of doing this, and one doubt I would always have in my mind is, I'll never be good enough to essentially attain, decent grades and stuff. So that was another thing that I had to essentially do. And that started again in year 13, in that period just before the A-levels. I think it was January to when I sat my A-levels, which is about May, June time. in 2022. So during that period then, I worked so hard. I just thought I was gonna essentially leave everything in the exam room when I attended those exams, because I wanted to prove that I could get those grades, and I needed them at the same time. I wanted to get into a healthcare degree, and what do you need for that? You need very top grades. I'm talking like 3 A's, or even at the worst ABB, essentially. So yeah, I worked really hard, achieved AAB, and the academic portion of this is something which has been brilliant ever since. I'm not going to jinx anything, obviously, but yeah, as long as I can keep putting in the effort, and as long as you guys can keep putting the effort as well, and your academics are good, that's one less factor that you've got to worry about in your life, essentially. Because life is very stressful. There's a lot of things that are going to happen which are going to be out of your control. So the things that you can keep in your control, I suggest to you guys, please just, put in the work and do your best that you can in that, so that when stuff doesn't go to plan in life, at least you're okay in that department. So another thing which really impacted sort of my confidence, it's one of the probably biggest insecurities I still have at this point, and it is my posture. So it's not as bad as it originally was when I started going to the gym, which was about July 2024 time. My spine was quite curved, where the shoulder area was down to like the mid back essentially, and this slouchy appearance was genuinely due to the accumulation of just wanting to be out the limelight, essentially. I would hunch myself over at school and just try to appear smaller, not get in anyone's way, and also, just try and not be noticed, essentially, because I was always scared that, I'm not worthy of being noticed, and again, that's essentially just having a low self-esteem. So yeah, I started my gym then. I strengthened essentially the shoulder muscles and the upper back muscles through a combination of exercises, like shoulder press, doing your rows and stuff on back day, of course. And that started to get better and better, started to get more aligned. And still, it's not perfect at the moment, but it is something that is getting better and better, I've started doing like more targeted stretching and movements essentially that a physiotherapist told me in order to align the spine a bit more. And this is something which I'll say actually, so over the past year or so, whenever I've had doctors or hospital appointments and they measured my height, I've been gaining height essentially, which is quite funny because, it's my bad posture was causing me not to be as tall as I could be, essentially. And going to the gym is something that's fixed that also, so that's really wonderful. So yeah, fixed the academic portion, fixed the posture, and worked on the appearance as well. Again though, these are things that are very superficial. I'm just going to say that. But they're not superficial if they're going to help you have the confidence essentially to talk to people and, put yourself out there. So this is something which is you need to learn continuously. It's something that I'm still learning, and that is you just need to get out there and talk to new people. You need to be able to essentially enter a room or enter a situation where you don't really know people that well, but you can still have the skill to communicate with them. Because guys, honestly, when you make a new friend or you're able to talk to someone, the feeling that you get is absolutely wonderful. You could just be quiet and sort of not give anyone your attention, or you don't want to be noticed. But what I found through doing that, I'd feel quite unfulfilled, and that was something that happened at the start of university. I was one of the people who just come in, do my lectures, just hang out, with a few people here and there, and then just go home and not really do anything else. I'd also have a fear of kind of talking to people. I'll be standing in, queues and stuff, waiting for my clinic, and I'd overhear people talking about topics that I wanted to talk about, but I'd always kind of shy away from that and not get involved in the conversation. And again, that's just something that makes you feel quite bad, because, you know, I could have very well talked about, you know, gaming or football or whatever they were talking about. I should have just put myself out there a little bit. But eventually, through the experiences that I had, I started to do that more and more. So one of the ways that it made it better for me was when I got my first job during my gap year, which was at a car spares and repair shop. Again, one of the best probably experiences I had, because through that I learned how to develop my sort of informal confidence, because, you know, when you're working in the trade and stuff like that, basically, you know, you crack your jokes, you know, a bit of like dirty humour here and there as well, so that was quite entertaining. But then also, since it was a retail based thing as well, I learned how to interact with the general public, and, you know, you're talking to different people, adapting your communication style, and that is a skill which essentially you can apply anywhere then. So yeah, we do that job and then we head into first year university. Again, it was I didn't have my beard then, I only had my hair. I wore these specs which were like a clear frame, which I now realise just didn't really suit me at all. So yeah, we wore that and we started university, you know. I was talking to some people here and there, and the real change didn't really come until the summer after first year, when I've cleared my exams, because as I said, that's when I started the gym, July 2024. So from that, I was running three things simultaneously essentially. I kept going to the gym, finding my routine here and there, but then I eventually did find one, which is good. I grew a beard, which is something that I always wanted to do, and, you know, it's essentially giving me that confidence. It makes your jawline look sharper. You know, that is essentially one of the purposes of it, and that's what makes it really nice. But then also in that summer, I just was trying, even when I was going to the gym, just talking to anyone that I could there, and I've made some like pretty decent acquaintances there now. You know, I go in the morning and I can just talk to them. Mostly we talk about the villa, of course, because, you know, what else is there to talk about? But yeah, we get to that point then, and I was going, we kind of migrate through second year. Again, I was trying to communicate to as many people as possible, but then we get to third year, and then third year is just, you know, where it just all comes out. You know, I started being myself, because second year me, I felt like was a bit fabricated, in the sense I was trying to look cool, but again, that doesn't make you feel very nice. You know, you want to project yourself, you want to be yourself essentially, and when you do that, that's when you can truly appreciate and be happy with who you are. So yeah, we get to third year and that just all happens, and now that's something which is really helping me in my job, which I'm doing at the moment. You know, I'm a pre-registration optometrist, been doing it, I'd say, for about a month and a half now as I'm making this video, and it's just absolutely great that I can call any patient into the consulting room and have any conversation with them, and just be confident enough to essentially maintain eye contact to a reasonable degree, of course, and also speaking to my colleagues as well. I'm able to talk to them and, you know, have the banter and stuff as well, which is great also. That's another thing as well, which is really hard to do because it is human nature, and that is, you shouldn't really care about what people think essentially. So I'm going to give a bit of a scenario now. Let's say someone that you know, whether it's your best friend or whatever, does something really embarrassing. Are you going to think about that thing for days and days on end? You're probably going to forget that even happened about 5 minutes after, you know? So why is it that you dwell on something that you've done which can be considered embarrassing, and you're thinking that everyone's going to judge you for it for a very long time? Guys, honestly, they're just going to forget about it as soon as, you know, I don't know, the conversation ends that you're having at the time, and they're not really going to dwell on it too much either. You know, everyone's got, you know, stuff that they're doing. They're not going to be constantly making fun of you or whatever, and people aren't really out to get you as well, you know? So yeah, really just don't care about what people think, because you should do what makes yourself happy. You should be very happy with how your personal attitude is, because your attitude, I can assure you, is absolutely amazing. That is the best version of yourself, and you should be very proud of who you are for that. Now, it's confidence again. It's not one of those things which I'm going to say it's been fixed at the moment, like night and day compared to 5 years ago, 100%. But it's one of those things where you're still going to have some off days. So there's certain days, for example, where I just feel extremely introverted. I really do not want to be talking to that many people, and that's okay. Sometimes you do need a break from that kind of stuff. And there's also going to be some times where you're still feeling like you're lacking, or you're not good enough, or you're not proud of what you're looking at in the mirror, essentially. And that is completely fine, guys. You're gonna, because I can assure you that you are good enough. You're putting in the effort. You're working on your appearance. You go into the gym, and that's absolutely brilliant, guys. And I can definitely tell you that somebody in the back of their mind is probably thinking, wow, this guy looks absolutely amazing. Because there's this guy that comes to the gym, and this is probably quite a new thing, probably about 3 months ago. I saw him essentially just doing his deadlifts and stuff, and I just said to the bloke, you're looking really good, essentially. Gave him like a little fist bump and stuff, and that just felt really nice, And that's one of the things, if you can just give compliments to other people as well, that makes them confident, but then it makes you confident also, because you're genuinely giving them a heartfelt, reassurance that, they're amazing, and that's a great thing, isn't it? So yeah, confidence, it's not something that, as I say, is attainable. It's something that you've got to build on year, and essentially make better and better. So yeah, guys, I think that wraps up what we're going to say today about confidence and everything. Again, this is probably a deeper video than what I'll usually be making, but it's something that definitely needs to be said, because I feel like a lot of people at the moment feel like they're not good enough, and that contributes to the fact that they're not very confident. But sometimes, guys, you've got to look at the people around you as well. Your family, your family, they're just so proud of you. Like, I can genuinely say that. Sometimes they might not say it, but you're putting in a lot of effort, and I think they respect you for that. But then also look at the friends that you've got around you as well. Your friends, they're there because you're great. You make them feel good, so that's why they want to be your friend, and that should make you really confident, guys. So yeah, these are some points to consider when you're trying to make yourself more confident. Do what makes you happy with yourself and makes you feel more confident as well, because at the end of the day, when you not fix all these factors, but you make these factors better for yourself, such as your academics are good, your physical health's good, and your appearance is good, with all these combined together, you're going to be able to tackle sort of like the speed bumps and everything that's going to be happening in life. So for example, now that's going to be, for me, optometry. I'm in my pre-registration year, and it's not easy by any means, because I'm having to constantly, keep myself on edge, because I feel like I'm not, fully experienced at the moment. But the thing is, at least, I'm proud of who I am, and therefore I can deliver better care for my patients also. So yeah, guys, have a wonderful week, as I always say. Keep working hard as well, because with your hard work, when you study and get your tasks out of the way, you're going to be building and building towards something a lot better. So yeah, guys, have a good one.